I'm almost 37 years old, and I spent my 20s really riddled and depressed and on drugs and miserable. Like, I was having an acid flashback to all the hours spent in front of the mirror, staring at my naked body and my face and trying to imagine how I was being seen by everyone else and feeling fat and feeling less than. Some of us are really like fucking insecure and will do anything to feel like we belong, and some of us aren't. And I happen to just be, I was like born that girl that was like, look at me, like, why does that girl look like she's got it figured out? Why does that girl look like she has it figured out? I want to have it figured out. I grew up in Chicago. We used to like drive around in my friend's car all day and smoke pot and talk about like when we get to New York and what was Fashion Week like. But you know, in 1993, I didn't know that Kate Moss could speak. Like, the whole world was just existed on magazines, and I had a vision. Like, I was a senior in high school when Chloe Sevigny came out with the movie Kids. I was like, I want to be in New York. Like, there was no HuffPo blogging back then about retouching. It's a little bit heartbreaking now when I think about, you know, some kids, there was kids in my class that it never occurred to them that they needed to be a part of like that scene. I mean, fashion was everything. It was everything because there was no way to penetrate it, none. I remember lying in college, I had 3 roommates, and I would listen to everyone's alarm go off at 6:45, and they would like shower and put hairspray in their hair, scramble their eggs. I was just like staring at the ceiling smoking cigarettes. Like, what about the fragility of life and the weight of the world, you know, the cosmos? My first internship was at Jane magazine the summer of 1998. I followed all the girls from Sassy, but really what I was doing is chasing this idea that somehow if I wrote for a magazine, maybe tomorrow morning I'd wake up and be Carolyn Bessette Kennedy. Maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and I'll be 92 pounds and I'll have a record deal and I'll be on the cover of French Vogue just because I'm me. And you know, that's like a brutal way to live when you're a kid. My dream was to write the book of the generation. I fancied myself like a Joan Didion or Lena Dunham 15 years ago. I was ready to say it all. What happened logistically is I went to graduate school, I got an agent, I sold the book, I got a good deal, and I thought my career as a freelance writer and novelist was about to like take off. I believed that I was like entitled to have this sort of like fame and recognition, and I was fucking hell-bent on getting it for myself. It didn't pan out. I fucking tried it. I had people saying, you're gonna be the next big thing. When you're 27 years old and you believe in it, it was all that mattered. They wanted me to tweak it, they wanted me to rewrite it. I said 6 months, and 6 years went by, and at the point I had no money. I was like a joke. My family was like, what the fuck? My friends were like, what are you doing? I was living in the East Village. I could barely get out of bed in the morning. I didn't want to live. I had these voices in my head saying that I was a fraud. I replayed every single step I had ever taken along the way that had gotten me to where I was. It was like the dark night of the soul. And at some point during this time, I met my husband. And I was standing in front of sunshine holding my sandal. And he came up, he's like, hey, what'd you do today? And I said, I was at Dia Beacon. He's like, what'd you do last night? I said, oh, I went to see the something show at the Met. And he's like, you do a lot of things, don't you? And I said, yeah. And he said, why? I said, what do you mean? He said, are you avoiding something? And all of a sudden I looked in his eyes and I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, me too. And then that was it. Then we were done, off to the races. He thought he was gonna be, you know, Jimi Hendrix. I thought I was going to be Joan Didion, and instead we were like Marge and Bart Simpson or whatever. I collect these dresses. These embody to me just everything that is beautiful about style, women, fashion. I have this shirt basically in like 104 different incarnations. This one I got at the Fort Greene Flea Market 3 weeks ago. I just like how they fit. They're from the 70s and they're all so soft and worn. And I've been buying these shirts since I was in high school and I still can't get enough. A Stone Fox Bride vintage dress. Every now and then someone tries to buy it, and I actually just brought it home yesterday because I don't want anyone to try to ever buy it again. These pants I got, they're old Isabel Marant pants. I think I got them on sale like 3 years ago. They've been like mended like 55 times. My grandmother had died 6 weeks before I got married, my Nana, whose ring I wear. I sort of wanted to honor her and do something traditional. I sewed a piece of her dress into my dress. Getting married is obviously about like 100 million other things than just like buying the dress. It's about like having to sort out who you are. It's about moving forward. It's about letting go. It's about holding, I mean, it's about change in like one of the biggest and most major ways. I'd been noticing during the wedding process that there hadn't been a cool store to get my wedding dress from in New York City, which I just found so bizarre. And I think if there's one thing I'm good at, it's just like knowing where the good, cool thing is. And I was like, where is it? Like I didn't even have to, I just knew it wasn't there. And so I said to my friend, oh, too bad, I can't just start a wedding store. And she was like, that's a good idea. Stone Fox Bride was started because I needed a career and I needed a way to make money, and because I had said goodbye to this one thing that I thought I was going to be doing, which would bring me a lot of creative joy. So I went from saying goodbye to that to just reading books like Retail for Dummies. And I thought that I was going to be just in a little dark storefront somewhere in Brooklyn for the rest of my life, like surrounded by dusty wedding dresses with like a cat on the floor. I was happy, but I wasn't really happy. I mean, I would rather have creative autonomy than have a husband. And I would see people on the street and they would say, oh, how's your book? And I would say, I actually am opening a store where I'm going to sell wedding dresses. And it was like the biggest humble pie. Went home and told my parents. No one was psyched. I'm proud that I've been able to execute and bring to life this vision of something that didn't exist. And I'm like still alive and kicking in New York after all these years. I've had a lot of different jobs in the city and I've worn a lot of different hats, and I never, ever, ever thought I'd be one of those lucky people ever who could run a business, start a business, ever. And I had really like deep, deep, deep fear about having a child because I didn't think I could. I didn't think I was equipped. I'm like a caring, loving person on like more of a cosmic level. When it comes to like caring and loving on the day-to-day, it felt very overwhelming to me. And I didn't buy everything that people told me when I was pregnant, like, the love that you feel is gonna conquer every fear that you have. Meanwhile, I was like knee deep in every book about postpartum depression. I had the baby, and then fast forward 20 months, you just fucking figure it out. Being married is not the answer to my existential craving to feel cared for always. It's one piece of the puzzle, but like at the end of the day, what you really need to have in a marriage is the hots for each other. And I wanna have sex with him all the time. I was really holding on to this idea that I needed to be someone, I needed to have something, I needed to be seen for something. And when I had finally, after years and years and years, let go of it and realized it wasn't gonna happen, is when something started to happen.